This is History of Sexuality in the U.S., Lecture 3B, Part 2, talking about the European influences on sexology. Two really important thinkers whose ideas began changing human thought in the 19th century are Charles Darwin and Gregor Mendel. Their ideas about evolution and genetics put sexual behavior at the heart of not only human existence, but all existence. Darwin's ideas are often summed up as survival of the fittest. But what people often then don't extrapolate from that is that Darwin's measure of fitness was the number of spawn you had, the amount of reproduction you engaged in. Fitness was a measure of the number of descendants you had, not strength or speed or anything else. And it meant that sexuality and sexual behavior were the driving forces of all existence and all history, according to this worldview. These are going to be hugely influential in a number of different ways, and one of the ways they're going to be taken up is in Germany. And in the German Empire at the time, due to a law called Paragraph 175, any individual man who was caught engaging in an act of sodomy could be penalized and incarcerated. Two campaigners against that, Karl Maria Kurtbener and Karl Heinrich Ulrichs, both in their letters to each other, began talking about how Paragraph 175 didn't just criminalize an act. It criminalized a type of person who had a propensity, a drive, a connection to that kind of behavior. They coined a term homosexual, and they coined a number of other terms, Uranian. They talked about the idea of having a woman's soul trapped in a man's body, and a lot of other terms that they summed up under this label, homosexual emancipist. They wanted to free people who were trapped under these laws that restricted both gender and sexual behavior, and they didn't see a big distinction between them. Their work was then expanded on by somebody from outside of the community. And Krafft Ebing had an enormous effect on sexology when he published the Psychopathia Sexualis. It was the first scientific manual to attempt to take on the topic of sexuality. And it essentially was a kind of dictionary of sexual types. Krafft Ebing looked at the range of different sexual behaviors that he could find in all different cities in Germany at the time. And he, instead, again, of focusing on the behavior, attached it to particular types of persons. He said that there were individuals that he called transvestites who were attracted to dressing as somebody who they were assigned a different sex than. These classifications, these taxonomies, then become really influential. Terms that he coined, like sadomasochism, are used today for identities and practices, and he established this taxonomizing impulse in sexology, the urge to categorize people based on their behavior. In somewhat contrast to him is Magnus Hirschfeld, probably one of the most important sexologists ever. And his experience was different because, like Kurtbener and Ulrichs, he was personally negatively affected by the persecution of people who practice same-sex sexuality. He goes on in the 20th century to be an enormously globally influential sexologist called the Einstein of sex in American newspapers, and later on Hitler calls him the most dangerous Jew in Germany. His ideas are coming out at the same moment that other Germans are really influencing changes in how we think about the mind and body. And two really influential figures there are Berthold, who's known as the father of endocrinology. The endocrine system is the body's way of producing and distributing hormones. These chemicals that have an effect on every cell in the body and changing their rate of growth and causing a lot of other physiological changes. Berthold started out simple, grinding up the testicles of a rooster and injecting in itself as an experiment. He found that it temporarily invigorated himself, but the effects went away quickly. He was beginning to learn about the substance testosterone, and his ideas are going to become more and more influential as scientists unlock more and more of the secrets of the body system. At the same time that some scientists are looking deeper into the body, people like Freud are trying to look deeper into the mind. And psychoanalysis becomes a popular method for understanding how we are strangers to ourselves, and that we might not know everything that we need to know about ourselves, and that often the maladaptive ways we express ourselves are due to past traumas and past experiences that we haven't quite reckoned with. We'll talk a little bit more about how all of these ideas get taken up in the United States as American sexology in part 3.